Have you ever felt that the person around you was completely useless? Ave Ueber, in anger and exhaustion, made a decision you later regretted for the rest of your life. Have you ever only realized after losing something that the best thing you had was already in your hands? If you hesitate even a little on any of these questions, then the story that follows may feel like a mirror, reflecting a corner of your heart that has never been touched. Mike's desk was piled high with documents. "Mike, I redid this report." A cautious voice came from the doorway. The man speaking was named William, in his early 30s, wearing an old pair of glasses. His shirt collar slightly yellowed. He was the most insignificant employee in Mike's company. Strictly speaking, he didn't even have a defined role. Running errands, organizing documents, making tea, wherever help was needed, he went. In Mike's eyes, William was like a stubborn donkey that couldn't pull its weight. Useless, slow, lacking initiative, always half a step behind. Did it again. Mike didn't even look up, his voice laced with impatience. "Last week, you messed up the client list 3 times. The day before yesterday, you sent the contract to the wrong address. And now, this report. Tell me, what can you actually do?" William stood at the door. His lips moved slightly, but in the end, he said nothing. He gently placed the report on the chair by the door and turned to leave. Mike watched his back, his irritation burning stronger. He remembered how, last month, William got the meeting time wrong and made him wait for an hour. How the month before that, William sent an important quotation to a competitor. And all the countless moments of disappointment over the past half-year. Slowly, that disappointment turned into a belief. And that belief became the truth in Mike's mind. William is just useless. That night, when Mike got home, he said to his wife Sarah, "I'm going to fire William. Then I'll go to the talent market and find someone actually capable." Sarah paused, putting down the bowl in her hands. "Mike, are you sure? William has been with you for 3 years. He may be a bit slow, but he's never been lazy." "What's the point of not being lazy?" Mike cut her off. "I need results, not attitude. If the attitude is good but there's no output, then it's useless." Sarah was silent for a few seconds and let out a soft sigh. She didn't try to persuade him anymore, because she knew that once a person has already made up their mind, nothing you say will matter. The next day, Mike called William into his office. There was no small talk, no preface. He didn't even look William in the eye. "William, the company is restructuring. You don't need to come in starting tomorrow. I'll give you an extra month's salary as compensation." William sat there, hands resting on his knees, like a blade of grass bent by the wind. He opened his mouth, as if to say something, but in the end, he just nodded. "Okay, Mike. Thank you for these past years." He didn't argue, didn't beg, didn't even ask why. He simply stood up, gently placed his ID badge on the desk, and walked out the door. Mike watched him leave, and unexpectedly, a sense of relief washed over him. Like a heavy stone had been lifted off his chest, like throwing away an old piece of furniture that was taking up space. 3 days later, Shenzhen Convention and Exhibition Center, a large job fair was underway. Mike put on his most expensive suit and walked into the venue with a determination to strike gold. The crowd was bustling, resumes and business cards everywhere. He walked around but didn't see anyone particularly impressive until he reached Booth B. A large crowd had gathered there. Mike stood on tiptoe to look inside there. Sitting at the center of the booth was a man in a well-tailored dark blue suit, wearing a subtle luxury watch, his hair perfectly styled. In front of him was a golden nameplate that read, "Luke, Senior Strategy Consultant, former core member of a renowned enterprise." People around him kept expressing admiration. "Mr. Luke, that case study you shared was incredible. I heard you helped a company improve efficiency by 30% all on your own. With a resume like yours, why would you even come to a job fair?" The man named Luke smiled slightly, his voice calm and confident. "I'm not lacking job offers. What I lack is a boss who truly knows how to appreciate me." Mike's heart started racing. Wasn't this exactly the kind of talent he had been dreaming of? He squeezed his way forward and handed over his business card. "Mr. Luke, I'm Mike from G&A Trading. Could we talk?" Luke glanced at him, slowly took the card, and smiled faintly. "Mike, nice to meet you." The conversation that followed completely drew Mike in. Luke spoke clearly and logically, quoting examples and theories as if every sentence had been carefully prepared. He talked about how he turned around a failing company, how his unique management system doubled team efficiency. He even brought out a thick portfolio filled with data and charts. The more Mike listened, the more excited he became. He felt like he wasn't interviewing a person, he was mining gold. People nearby whispered, "I heard a headhunter offered him $50,000 a month, and he declined. Another company offered him a VP position, and he's still considering. Someone like him, whoever gets him, will make a fortune." The price, or rather, Mike's internal expectation, kept rising like bids in an auction. DS Mil. No. Someone like this is worth 20,000.2 40,000? 50,000? Mr. Luke. Mike stood up, his voice trembling with excitement. "I'll offer you a monthly salary of 50,000, plus year-end bonuses. You can choose your position in my company." The room fell silent for a moment. Then Luke smiled. He slowly extended his hand. "Mike, deal." Mike practically floated home. When he walked in, his wife Sarah was washing dishes in the kitchen. "Sarah, come look at this." Like a child who just got full marks, A spread Luke's resume and photos on the table. "I fired that useless William, only paid him 1 extra month. And guess what? I found a real expert at the talent market. 50,000 a month. Worth it. Totally worth it." Sarah wiped her hands and walked over, picking up the resume. She didn't speak. She just quietly flipped through the polished layout, the impressive credentials, the glamorous photo. "Why aren't you saying anything?" Mike asked, slightly dissatisfied. "I'm looking," Sarah replied calmly. "Just wait and see next month. Our company's performance will double." Mike was already planning how to redecorate the office. Sarah put down the resume and sighed softly. It was the same kind of sigh she had let out the night she tried to persuade him not to fire William. Monday morning, Luke arrived on time. He wore a brand new suit, carried the latest laptop, and even had an assistant following him, carrying his bag. The entire office was stunned. Mike personally gave him a tour and introduced him to every employee. "This is Luke. From now on, he's our partner. Everyone, cooperate with him." Luke smiled and shook hands with everyone, exuding confidence. But there was one detail Mike didn't notice when Luke passed by the pantry. He stared at the old duty schedule on the wall for 3 seconds. On that schedule, the name William was still written in crooked pen. At noon, Mike took Luke to a high-end restaurant downstairs. During the meal, Luke went to the restroom. His phone was left on the table, and the screen lit up. Mike glanced at it unintentionally. It was a message from someone saved as Joel. The message read, "William, is everything going well on your side? Don't push yourself too hard." Mike froze. William. He shook his head, assuming it was just someone with the same name. He didn't think much of it. That afternoon, Mike brought Luke back to the office to hold a welcome meeting. Suddenly, Sarah showed up. She was carrying a bag of fruit. "Why are you here?" Mike asked, surprised. "Just passing by," Sarah said, but her eyes were fixed on Luke. Luke stood up politely and nodded. "Nice to meet you, sister-in-law." Sarah didn't respond. She slowly walked over and stopped in front of Luke. Then she did something that stunned everyone. She reached out and gently removed Luke's glasses. Then she loosened his tie, unbuttoned the top button of his shirt, and slightly messed up his neatly styled hair. The office fell silent. Mike's eyes widened. He saw that face, the one he thought was unfamiliar, refined, elite. Without the glasses, without the tie, with the hair slightly disheveled. It was the same person he had fired. "William." Mike's voice seemed forced out from deep in his throat. Luke, no. William stood there, calm and composed. He didn't dodge, didn't panic. He simply sighed softly and said, "Mike, I've never changed. The only thing that changed is how you see me." At that moment, Mike felt like the world was spinning. Not because of the 50,000 salary, not because of the shattered expectations, but because the truth he had been trying to avoid finally crashed into him like a wall. He remembered how, For 3 years, William was always the first to arrive and the last to leave. He remembered that although William was slow, he never refused any task. He remembered how William never talked back when scolded, only nodded silently. He remembered the day William left, placing his badge gently on the table and saying, "Thank you for these years." He had never changed. What changed was Mike's perception. When William wore an old shirt, old glasses, with no title or packaging, Mike saw only flaws. But when the same person wore a suit, had a polished resume, and was surrounded by praise, Mike saw the biggest mistake wasn't paying $50,000 to hire the same person. The biggest mistake was never truly seeing the value of what he alre a. Sarah walked over and gently held Mike's hand. She said nothing, because she already knew some lessons can only be learned after you hit the wall yourself. Mike didn't fire William after that. Instead, he sat down and talked with him for an entire afternoon. For the first time, he truly listened to William. For the first time, he asked, "What do you think you're good at?" For the first time, he saw surprise and gratitude on William's face. William said, "Mike, I'm still the same, me. You work slowly, and sometimes I make mistakes, but I've never tried to harm you, and I've never been lazy." Mike stayed silent for a long time, then said, "I'm sorry. It wasn't your problem. It was my eyes. I never truly opened them." Have you ever been like Mike in your own life? Have you ever, in a moment of anger, thrown away someone who was always loyal to you? Have you ever paid a high price for something wrapped in praise and appearance, without truly understanding it? We are always too quick to make decisions, too quick to judge, too quick to discard what seems useless, and too quick to chase something better. But we rarely stop and ask ourselves, have I really seen clearly, or am I just blinded by emotion and appearance? If you've read this far, thank you for listening to this story. I'd love to hear your voice in the comments. Have you ever had a similar experience? Made a decision in a moment of emotion that you later regretted for a long time, or only realized the true value of someone or something after losing it? Feel free to share your story in the comments. Maybe your experience will become someone else's moment of awakening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone you almost lost. Some things don't wait until you lose them to learn to cherish them. Some eyes don't wait until you hit the wall to finally open them. See you next time.